Hey everyone, let's jump right into this explainer covering Dr. Ryan Baidia's deeply detailed policy monograph on democratic governance in West Bengal. It's an absolutely fascinating, impartial look at what actually happens during a political transition. Specifically, we're looking at the shift from the TMC to the BJP while keeping the historical shadow of the CPM in mind. It's basically a structural analysis of how a state can ensure an electoral mandate actually translates into a functioning democracy, rather than just a simple changing of the guard. So the monograph opens by posing a really critical question. Can changing a political party actually change a political culture? It issues a pretty stark warning here that an electoral victory doesn't just automatically dismantle deeply entrenched systems of local coercion. It makes a striking point right out of the gate. A fair and clean election can absolutely remove a party from office, sure, but it cannot automatically remove the habits, the networks, and the incentives that grew under that party. Political culture, the author argues, actually survives elections, unless, of course, it's deliberately and systematically dismantled. To unpack all of this, we'll be looking at 5 key areas today. 1. The problem of Tolabaji. 2. Bengal's cycle of transition. 3. The governance and economic risks. 4. The anti-extortion framework. And finally, 5. Safeguards and training. All right, moving into section 1, the problem of Tolabaji. Let's see how this builds the core thesis of the paper. Now, what's really interesting here is how the author defines these regional terms. We're not just talking about petty corruption. It's framed as a systematic political economy of extraction. Think of Tolabaji as forced payments, protection money, illegal commissions, cut money, and interference in local contracts. And it's paired with Dadabaji, which is essentially the conversion of local political identity into outright social domination. So why does this actually matter to you, the average person? Well, because it means basic legal rights just aren't enough. Citizens are literally forced to manage their local political handler just to get by in their daily lives. Okay, on to section 2, Bengal's cycle of transition. This part brilliantly illustrates the author's central contrast. You see, voters might remove a party, but opportunistic cadres often bring the exact same habits of extortion right into the new administration. The explainer points out that during the transition from the CPM to the TMC, citizens hoped for freedom, but eventually just found a new network of control. We really have to beware of what's called color-changing cadres. These are operatives driven purely by power, not ideology, who will gladly just, paint their flag a new color if it means keeping their extortion racket alive. True democratic change requires establishing citizen sovereignty and lawful administration. It goes way, way beyond just counting votes. This brings us to Section 3, Governance and Economic Risks. So what happens if a new administration just adopts the old machinery? Well, the paper meticulously categorizes the immediate dangers of the status quo across 4 distinct areas. First up is the citizen risk. Seeing the exact same intimidation happen under a new banner instantly destroys a new government's moral legitimacy. Second, we have the industrial risk. Unofficial money demands raise business costs and severely deter outside investment. Then there's the police risk. When stations serve the political party rather than the actual law, democracy basically fails. And finally, bureaucratic risk. Officials simply cannot do their jobs when they're constantly pressured by political middlemen. Let's look at the solutions in Section 4, the anti-extortion framework. To combat all of this, the paper outlines a robust digital portal that forces transparency, ensuring local extortion networks know that citizen complaints cannot just be politically suppressed. The whole idea here is to give power directly back to the citizens, the businesses, and the contractors. By providing unique tracking numbers and a public, albeit redacted dashboard, literally anyone can see the nature of an allegation, its broad location, and the administrative steps being taken in near real time. Think about it. If a local strongman knows a complaint can't just be buried in a desk drawer because it's tracked publicly online, their power is significantly undercut. It's honestly a brilliant use of basic technology to force accountability where it traditionally just hasn't existed. And the implementation roadmap in the text is incredibly structured. It breaks down the exact policy rollout required from the first 30 days all the way through to the end of year 1. It starts with immediate, highly visible actions, like a public zero-tolerance declaration from top leadership and identifying high-risk areas. Then, by day 100, the digital portal goes live, district-level anti-Tolabaji cells are established, and critically, police officers in areas with repeated allegations get rotated. Finally, by the end of the first year, the goal is to institutionalize a permanent anti-extortion authority, complete with legal protections for whistleblowers. It is a comprehensive, step-by-step blueprint for structural reform. Which leads us to our final section, Section 5, safeguards, and training. Now, the monograph heavily emphasizes that any strong anti-extortion system needs strict guardrails, right? This specific safeguard ensures that absolutely no punitive action is based solely on anonymous complaints without strict multi-source verification. The author calls this the informer of informer principle. It recognizes that in a highly charged political environment, well, an anonymous portal could easily be abused by people just trying to settle a factional dispute, a business rivalry, or even a personal vendetta. So, to prevent the system from becoming a tool for harassment, local reports must be cross-checked by independent observers and administrative sources before any action is actually taken. Furthermore, the source insists that party workers must be actively trained to understand that political victory does not make them local authorities or unofficial tax collectors. The author is very, very clear on this. You cannot just assume that winning an election means your cadres understand democratic governance. Actually, they need explicit training on their boundaries. They have to be taught that the citizen is the master, not the party. They must understand that the police act independently, that public money is a sacred trust, and crucially, that opposition voters and workers absolutely must be protected from revenge politics. Without this kind of internal correction, a party might win the state, but ultimately fail democracy. And that brings us to this powerful quote pulled directly from the monograph's conclusion. The ultimate goal of all these institutional reforms boils down to one simple truth. The citizen must not fear the party in power. West Bengal, the author argues, doesn't need another party-centered society. It desperately needs a citizen-centered administration. The real test isn't just yelling about the last government's corruption, but actually cracking down on your own. No citizen should ever fear the party that claims to represent them. So I'll leave you with this final thought from the paper. Proving democracy belongs to the citizens is the ultimate test of a true transition. If the next administration just inherits the machinery of coercion, well, history just repeats itself, and citizens who voted for relief end up receiving a shiny new structure of control. But if they dismantle it, they open a chapter where industry grows, police actually protect, and democracy functions the way it's supposed to. So what do you think? Will the culture of local extraction finally be broken? I really hope this explainer helped break down these complex ideas for you. Keep asking questions and always look closely at the structures behind the politics.